Well, folks, what if we told you that there are more signs pointing towards Star Wars getting the reset we talked about with the scoop on May 3rd? It just continues and continues. We'll explain why. Lauren Connor is going to walk us through this. But over at Geeky Tyrant, Hayden Christensen is now reportedly returning to play Anakin Skywalker for multiple new Star Wars projects. This is by Joey Power. And well, folks, it's two, okay? Multiple sounds more impressive, so that'll get more clicks, but it's two projects, which actually lines up exactly with what we have been hearing and talking about. We'll explain in just a second. A new report claims that Hayden Christensen is lined up for at least two more Star Wars projects, which means fans may be seeing a lot more of both Anakin and Darth Vader in the years ahead. After the way audiences embraced his return in Obi-Wan Kenobi and later Ahsoka, this honestly doesn't come as a huge surprise. Lucasfilm seems to understand just how much love there is for the prequel era, and they're leaning into it. According to industry insider Daniel Rickman, who they'll say his name. No, listen, we're not casting shade. No jaded here. Christensen is expected to return for multiple upcoming projects as either Anakin or Vader, considering he's already played both versions of the character again under Disney's banner. The possibilities are wide open. All right, Lauren, this came out after you and I had been talking about what's probably happening behind the scenes. You have been reviewing the data, looking into what you believe is the path forward for Star Wars, and you've discovered some stuff. Walk us through, Lauren. Who is Ahsoka, and why is she the character Dave Filoni likely is going to use not only to retcon the sequel trilogy, but the prequels too?
Okay, so first I want to define what I mean by retcon the prequel trilogy. I don't mean do away with or fundamentally change the content of the prequel trilogy. But as I've been preparing for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, I've been going back and watching all of the content to be sure that I remembered everything that happened and could put the movie in context. That included The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian Season 3, and Ahsoka. And this is only the second time that I have watched Ahsoka. I have not watched it since the first watch through. I hated the show when I first watched it. So I'm not all the way through the series yet. I will say the show actually improved for me on the second watch. Although I still think that it's horribly miscast. I think that it has some serious problems with it, especially at the end. But the episode that I was watching last night was the episode where Ahsoka enters the world between worlds and meets Anakin, as in these images here. And this time, I paid a lot more attention to the dialogue in the scene. And one of the things that bothered me about this happening in Ahsoka, her entering the world between worlds, was how did she do it? Because they made clear in Rebels that there needs to be a doorway. They had a Jedi temple that had a locking mechanism that tied to the gods of Mortis that Ezra could open to get into the world between worlds. Palpatine wanted to enter so badly that after that mural was destroyed, he had it transported to him and had Ezra brought to him to try to open it again. There's no doorway. How did she get in? And so I got to thinking about it, and I think that it ties back to the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars. She died in that series, was infused with the power of the daughter who died, and has essentially taken on aspects of the daughter's role, but has not accepted her role as the daughter. Instead of dying in both cases so far where she should have, she has not. Now, in that scene in the world between worlds with Anakin, he says that he's there to complete her training. And she tells him that he's a little late for that. And he says that he hasn't taught her everything that he knows. And there's a back and forth that's going on with them. He's trying to entice her into a fight. She says, "I won't fight you." And he says, "I've heard that before," referencing when Luke said that he wouldn't fight him. Shatters the walkway that they're on in the world between worlds. She falls, and they're now in the Clone Wars as her younger self. And they're in the middle of this battle, and Ahsoka is having difficulty wanting to fight in the Clone Wars. And she's seeing the cost of the war, and she's asking herself, is this all this is? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? And Anakin is making the point that the Jedi of old were defenders, but in this era, they have to act as soldiers, and that's how he's training her, because they're in the middle of this war. And she continues to press back on this, the idea that she doesn't want to fight. Anakin is leaning on her to do so. And eventually he tests her. He says that she's incorrect and says, back to the beginning again. And they start to fight again. Now back in the world between worlds with her back as her older self. And at this point, she turns off her lightsaber, just like Luke did. And the fight's over, and Anakin says that maybe she's actually learned what she needed to know now, and then she exits the world between worlds and goes back to normal. I think what this is hinting on is that, again, the Jedi lost the position they were supposed to be in. They became soldiers, not defenders of the peace. Anakin failed in his destiny because he was supposed to take on the aspect of the Father in Mortis and refused the call, and in doing so doomed the galaxy to endure the Clone Wars and Palpatine's rule. Ahsoka also, in her place, refused to take on the role of the daughter, and later on, the world between worlds was used to prevent her from dying. And so another thing that occurred to me is because she has an ability to escape death because she is the aspect of the daughter. This represents life in the Star Wars universe. This is the part that gets a little wonky. This is the retcon of the prequels part I'm talking about. The one thing that the Jedi of the current era don't know how to do, have forgotten how to do, is to retain their identity after death. And the only one that knows how to do that is Qui-Gon. And they have never explained that. And the base explanation that they have given is that at some point in his travels, Qui-Gon encountered a Force shaman that taught him the ability to do this. But they've never actually told that story. I think that if Ahsoka takes on her aspect as the daughter, at that point she has access to the world between worlds. She can enter it at will. It connects all space and time. She is the one who teaches Qui-Gon how to retain his identity after death. When she has that meeting with Anakin in the world between worlds, he makes a point of the fact that Qui-Gon taught Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan taught him, and he taught her. And he says, you're a part of that circle. Well, if it's a circle, then this is in line with Lucasfilm sensibilities. It is the girl boss going back and teaching the one Jedi who knew how to do what needed to be done.
That's what I was going to say. So we think contractually this is starting to line up, because if Hayden is back for 2 more things, we have heard that there's Ahsoka season 2, and then there's a wrap everything up and reset it. This lines up pretty darn well. The idea that Ahsoka, who is his favorite character, is actually the most important character in all of Star Wars, because she's in all places at all times. She's like the Dark Phoenix of Star Wars. She actually taught Qui-Gon Jinn how to use the Force to become a ghost. And the sequel trilogy gets branched off because she was supposed to be the one who died and accepted her fate in the world between worlds, but she didn't. And that's where this is going. Is that right, Lauren?
Yes. Now, bear in mind, all of this is speculation on my part. But part of what I was thinking about was, I don't think that they really can easily pivot to the original trilogy characters because they're either too old, it's too expensive, or people have died. I don't think they want to recast. But they know Hayden is popular, and we already know that he's in Ahsoka Season 2. And they've dropped enough breadcrumbs there, and they have to figure out how to resolve Ahsoka. They've never explained that meeting with Qui-Gon and the Force Shaman, and it occurred to me, it's like, well, who would know how to do that?
Well, here's the other thing, and then we need to open up the panel to give their thoughts on this, which I know that we're really deep in lore beyond where we typically go here, but I think it's important. We've talked about in the past that they can no longer do a Mando 2. That movie's gone. There's no sequel. We've talked about there's no more Ahsoka movie. That's gone, right? Nobody cares about Thrawn, so all that's over. If we need a reset movie, now everybody on the panel, now listen to this and think about it. And audience, hear me out on this, okay? Because Lauren walked me through all of this, and he when he started telling me the stuff, the little breadcrumbs that Filoni's put in there, I said, yep. And then the contract stuff came out today at the same time we were talking about it. We said, okay. Who's the one character with the one actor that they still have at Star Wars that they could put a movie on and wrap the whole thing up and try to make all the fans happy? They can do it with Kristen, with Hayden and Anakin / Darth Vader. It's the one character who remains that they haven't destroyed. And they get to, I think this is where they're going. It's the only movie they can make. It's all they've got anymore. And it makes sense when Filoni's out there saying, well, you can't really use Darth Vader because, Darth Vader. He's right. They're going to use Anakin.
I want to make a point here that I see in the chat from Butter Biscuit, and I hear this a lot when I throw these type of theories out there. You say this assuming most of the chat have seen Clone Wars and all that animated nonsense, and I highly doubt it. For the chat, sure, you're right. And I agree with you that if you were trying to pitch this, for instance, in a movie, you'd also be right. Most people haven't seen it. It's too complicated. It's too convoluted. But the people who are watching the show, which is where this will take place, are the people who have already watched the show. They are familiar with it. And so the people that this story would be for are the ones who are already deep into the lore and know the stuff about Mortis and the world between worlds, so you don't have to level set for them. That's why this is part of what I think those rumors of the reshoots for Ahsoka Season 2 are about.
All right. Wiz, Derek, I've seen you both engage in that conversation. Both of you having the same kind of reaction. I'm going to hand it over to you. Before you tear it apart, it is a girl boss Dark Phoenix move for Filoni's favorite character. So what do you think?
Derek, you go first.
Why, thank you, Wiz. The main problem that I see with this, and not to say that Lauren's wrong or anything, because he's probably 100% over the target, but it doesn't do anything, in my opinion, to build hype and momentum for the franchise as a whole. I mean, like you just said, a lot of people haven't seen any of these stories. They don't know anything about the Mortis arc. So why spend any more money trying to explain away something that the vast majority of the, TV watchers and movie-going public could care less about? Why go back to that well to try to explain something that people aren't going to watch or care about, even if they do watch it? So that's the number one problem I have. I do believe that when Dana Walden and Josh D'Amaro and Alan Bergman showed up, they said, you need to add something to Ahsoka to get this thing fixed, or you got to do something, because the franchise is floundering and there's way too much money being left on the table for you guys just to get around here and play super deep lore with a lot of people that, for starters, didn't even watch it on Disney Plus. I mean, a lot of households have Disney Plus, and people couldn't be bothered just to tune in to watch Ahsoka. We saw the ratings for Ahsoka go from here down to here by the time that thing finished. And so a lot of people that did start with Ahsoka didn't even finish it. So why would we make something? And again, I'm not saying that, Lauren is wrong, because he's probably right. That's probably something that they're contemplating. That's the first problem that I have. I don't know if they would give him that adjunct and then he goes and does this. It's like, this isn't moving the needle. That's the first thing. The second part that I have is the constant need to recontextualize the characters of any of the previous stuff that George worked on. All right, to make Ahsoka stand preeminent. I'll say, well, now we must look at Qui-Gon in light of Ahsoka. Like that stuff is just poison. You're just asking for it at that point. Qui-Gon is still sort of a beloved character. People like Qui-Gon. Really haven't messed him up because he was just in one movie and then he was done. So I think most people enjoy Qui-Gon as a character. To add Ahsoka as the person that taught him how to, become a Force ghost. Now, again, it's girl boss. It's totally within the wheelhouse of Disney Star Wars. This is what Disney Star Wars does. But what are you really doing at this point? Are you really trying to rip apart the prequels the same way that you recontextualize everything that we knew about the original trilogy? You're asking for it at that point. You're begging for everybody to hate you. Now it's like, okay, now we can't even enjoy the prequels like we used to, because now we have to look at everything in light of this nonsense that Filoni wants to put out there. It's not even risky. It's insane to do it, but it's Disney Star Wars. This is what they've been doing. So I wouldn't be shocked, but man, this would be such a boneheaded move. I want
to say, Derek, we're not advocating for this. It's just that
right. I understand.
Lauren's going back and looking at what's there. Like, how did she get in the world between worlds? All this. Then we see the contracts landing. And we're like, okay. Right. This is where they're going.
Like all signs point to something going on, especially with Anakin coming back. So you got to sit back and think, okay, this is probably somewhere close to what they're trying to do. They're trying to use Anakin in Ahsoka to go back in time, make it all make sense. But again, you're talking about putting a lot of effort and energy into something that a lot of people just haven't watched. Not that many people finished up Ahsoka that started Ahsoka. And then how many people are finishing, going through the Mandoverse and enjoying the Mandoverse? It's like people have checked out. That's why, John Favreau was like, oh, well, Dave's going to tell me about the future of the Mandoverse next week. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I think the Mandoverse is coming to an end, and I would just try to clean it up as much as possible without hurting any of the previous iterations of Star Wars. That's me. Anyway.
Lauren, give us your thought, and then let's go to Wiz, because I know you had a response to that.
My argument is just, if you're asking why are they spending money on this, it's because they've already spent the money on this. The series is already shot. They've already got season 2 that's been shot, but now delayed because they're making changes. They are in post-production, but I believe that reshoots are going to be part of this as well. And admittedly, the tie that I'm making here between Ahsoka and Qui-Gon is tenuous. This is me making an intuitive leap. But knowing how Filoni approaches Ahsoka and what he is setting up her role to be, and knowing that what they have said in the lore is that Qui-Gon learned how to retain his identity through his contact with the priestesses in the spirit realm and a shaman of the wills. Well, a shaman of the wills would have to know how to retain their identity after death, and the only one that I know of that would have the power to do that has been shown explicitly is somebody infused with the power of the daughter. That's Ahsoka, and that plays to what Filoni loves to do.
Now, Wiz, in addition to what you're going to say, let me add this to your plate. Take it from two sides. I know you're going to hit us on the lore, but from the executive side, from Disney, imagine they come in and they say, Filoni, fix it, we don't care how. And Filoni looks and says, all I got left is Anakin. All right, go.
Take it from two sides, huh? So with this problem here, Lauren, he said it. Lauren, the problem here, there's two problems. Well, on one side, we haven't seen the Mandalorian and Grogu yet at the time of us sitting together. This movie is not going to be well. I think your opinions might change after we see this film, because we're all going to realize it doesn't. We are still trying to apply logic to something that is too far gone to have logic applied to it. There is no course back to course current to fixing things. It continues to get worse. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to. Okay, the Mandalorian and Grogu is them attempting to say, okay, we made some mistakes. Let's try something else, but we still think we were right the first time around. There is no amount of logic that we can apply to something when the writers themselves are only capable of emotion. They're only capable of writing through the lens of high emotions. Somebody's sad, somebody's angry, somebody's happy, they're sad again, they're angry again. Now they're crossing their arms and arguing. And what are they arguing about? It doesn't matter. It's because emotions are high. That's all Hollywood. It's not just a Star Wars problem. It's a Hollywood problem. You're talking like somebody, and this is not an attack because I'm jealous of the optimism. But you're talking like somebody like it's 2008. You sound like it's 2008 when we are so dead. It is the corpse stinks is where we're at, and it needs to be buried.
You're misunderstanding me. This is not optimism on my part. I am not framing this,
but it still is because you're still trying to give them credit to like how even through the lens of it still is terrible. You're still trying to apply logic to something that you have done more legwork in that little bit of thought than a SWAT team of Lucasfilm is capable of doing.
You're still misunderstanding my point. Were they left to their own devices? I agree. I'm making this argument in the context of they have been ordered to, which I think is something different than what has happened before. And I think that order is serious. I think right now they are in the full 5 alarm. There's no more effing around here. You're going to find a way to fix this, or you're gone. And I think that's the only threat that moves the needle.
And because of that box office we've reported on with Mandalorian and Grogu, I mean, this is not embarrassing anymore. I don't even know where we are. Like we have talked negatively about what it would do, and it's lower than we thought. So, that's pretty impressively bad. And I just think, I think Star Wars I think at Lucasfilm, Disney has probably, the executives have probably went and said, we don't care what it takes. We don't care how you do it, but it's going to get done. And and then you enter into Filoni's mind space and you figure, well, how would I do this? Well, we got Anakin and we got Ahsoka and people still like them and Ahsoka she'll be the girl boss and it's okay. And I see this going in that direction. Atreus, culture guys, hop in on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know it's lore heavy how we get there, but ultimately the bottom line is they've got to branch off the sequel trilogy. And if Filoni also puts Ahsoka into the prequels, I don't put it past him to do that.
I mean, I don't know a lot about the lore as much as you guys do, but I mean, I think it can be as simple as we just got to get butts and seats, period. Like I wouldn't put it past them to do that. I also consider the nature of the film industry in general, and that a lot of the stuff that's put out now is still a result of, the previous regime, right? Like, the Kathleen Kennedys and, whatever they had in plan. So like, as much as I would love to say, hey, this was their plan all along, or this plan is what they're trying to do for the future. It could be a clean house type of thing. It could be like, let's start this thing over. Let's just bring him in. Let's bring, I don't forgot his name already. Just Anakin. Yeah, I'll just say Anakin. Yeah, just bring him in.
Hayden.
Let's build around him a type of situation, because one of the things that we know is that Disney understands that they need to get the men back in order. They've said that they want to get young men back, not just for Marvel and other brands like that, but I mean, you better get them back for Star Wars as well, because I think the idea that you've been convinced is that women are going to spend just as much on Star Wars as men was completely asinine, and you're figuring that out. So yeah, you're going to want to bring him in, and whether it's for the deep lore reason or to fake Wizards point, no, they're not thinking at all. It could be for any reason. They just need to bring it in. Like, there's people that are just like, I don't care what you do. Like you said, bring in somebody who's going to put butts in seats and get us our core fan base back.
Culture, your thoughts on where we are with Star Wars and the fact that we're talking about them having to pull this kind of a lever, whether they do or not. These are the kinds of huge moves they've got to make to try to get out of how badly the sequels have harmed them.
Yeah, and I don't think you do that with Ahsoka. I think she's probably the worst character to bring in. She represents all of the issues with Star Wars.
I thought you were going to say all of the Jedi before her for a minute. I was like, no, don't do that to us.
No.
Well,
she represents all of the bad Star Wars. Yeah,
you want me to really make you hate me?
Okay.
Oh, no.
If she does take up the role as the daughter and then teach Qui-Gon this ability and then moves to teach all the rest of the Jedi that ability, that actually fixes the I'm all the Jedi line in the sequel trilogy, because now all of the Jedi know how to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, please no.
Look, there's no saving this. I'm sorry. I've been looking at this for a long time. Through the eyes of somebody who was actually sitting in the theater when the first movie rolled. Okay. I'm that old. So I was a young boy, but I was watching Star Wars, which is the first in theater memorable experience of my lifetime. And I can say that I can reflect back on the many times I made family members take me to go see that film again throughout the year, because it played forever in the big theaters and small theaters alike. And I can say that I never thought that the hope for Star Wars and for good Star Wars would die in me, and it's gone. I don't care anymore. They're not bringing me back. Star Wars and Disney and all these other things, Marvel included, those are passed down generationally. You build up love over time. The only way, the nostalgia is the feeling, the sensation of being able to have reach back in time and cling to an emotion that you had at that time. I have done that for the majority of my lifetime. 47, 48 years of my life that I was aware of Star Wars because Star Wars was new. And I don't think I will ever experience that feeling again with anything new that they're trying to make. I think they've pushed the. I'm not sharing it with anybody anymore. I doubt any of you guys are. I don't feel compelled to sit down with them and watch any of the Disney minus garbage, or any of these other films that showed up. The sequel trilogy was a complete disaster, and once you disassemble the Force Awakens the way it properly deserves, you find out it's a worse version of A New Hope, which was what Star Wars was originally called. That's why I have no hope for Star Wars, and Disney has no hope, because if they're not relying on base emotions, as was described just a few moments ago, and very shallow writing depth, which is what Filoni's capable of. I mean, the animated trash he's produced is just that, and none of it ever adds to the conversation. And the depth of the writing is exactly equal to the love that anybody could possibly have for the Let's Get High Republic, or whatever the latest version of Star Wars was, to remake it with a feminist frame. And here's the problem we're looking at on screen right now, is it's all female driven. And if you female drive it with Ahsoka, nobody's coming back. I promise you, Grogu sales are not going to go up after this terrible film I'm being subjected to tomorrow. And we're going to be back in the same frame that we were, from the very first time they tried to remake Star Wars. I think George realized his mistake, but there's nothing he can do to fix it. And he's made several mistakes with his property, including trying to remake and re-edit the original trilogy, which was a tragedy. I think that they don't know how to make this a lived-in universe, and I think that they failed to learn the lessons of trying to do it in the smallest frame on TV, and those don't translate into the biggest frame.
Let me give Wiz the final word here. Wiz, we've spoken in partial English this entire segment. I'm not even sure what some of these things mean whatsoever.
The world between worlds.
But Wiz, what if there's a movie after Ahsoka, World Between Worlds, Anakin and Ahsoka have to reset the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. They make it simple enough for normies to understand, hey, they're going to reset the thing. And that's like all this other stuff we're talking about in this segment. That's in a dozen novels that come out to cover it. But for the normies, hey, it's Anakin and Ahsoka on a glowy walk bridge, and they got to fight a bad guy, and Ahsoka's got to die, and they wave goodbye to a fading out Rey. Woo, Rey, we're going to miss you. No, your life never existed. No. And here we go.
Do you know what? Firstly, this conversation seems a little too black-pilled, even for me. So here's what I think is going to happen.
You're the pill. What are you talking about, man?
I'm shocked.
Even for me.
Whoa!
I said black-pilled. It's a little too black-pilled.
Too black pill for fake wizard is saying a lot.
I was gonna say, he is the pill. What are we talking? What are we doing here?
We actually that will come and crap all over your excitement.
Oh yeah,
we have accidentally curved all the way around back to hope for fake wizard. That's how dark he is.
Like a hedgehog looking at a porcupine and saying, "You're too spiky."
Lauren, it's actually a new hope. So here's what's going to happen, because I think you're on kind of the right track. They need to play this out, right? They need to end the things and end all of the Disney Plus stuff and end all of the Disney Star Wars stuff. And here's what I see happening. You are going to have a crossover kind of a movie. And I do think there's a reality where, because here's why: Grogu sells, and women like Grogu, and women like to buy Grogu stuff, and he's so cute. That's not exactly going away, even if the Mandalorian and Grogu film underperforms. Grogu makes money as the Baby Yoda. Hold on, culture, hang on. You have no idea where I'm going with this. What we're going to get is a kind of a crossover project, and it's going to be the big kind of come together. You're going to bring Ahsoka together. You might even get Pedro back on screen for 5 minutes. You're going to have Hayden Christensen, everybody's going to get together, and whatever conflict that they're going to come together and fight is going to end with a timeline reset.
Yep.
And that's what it's going to be. And it's going to be a New Hope 2. And it's going to be the restarting of all of Star Wars with a new cast where the old George Lucas verse has come to an end with all of Disney Plus's favorite characters. Maybe they involve Rey. Who knows at this point?
Oh, they're going to doomsday it, bro. They're going to go full doomsday.
Yes.
They're going to bring everybody into this that they can. I have no doubts at all about that. I think that's what Dave Filoni is trying to figure out how to do it and make it make sense. They're going to basically doomsday this.
There is no way to bring back Star Wars fans, to get Gen Alpha interested. There's no way for Star Wars in its current state. There is a zero possible chance to continue Star Wars the way that they've been going. It's losing. It's worse and worse and worse with every iteration. The only path forward, especially after Mandalorian and Grogu, is the canon timeline reset. And I think Lauren's on to something.
But I'll say this. I disagree that they'll restart Star Wars in terms of redo what George did. I think what they'll do probably is go into Luke being the cool Jedi, because what have they figured out from all this? Clearly that's what people wanted. Let's do that. We'll give you ultimate version Luke for the next decade if that's what you wanted. We'll recast him. We don't care. Please buy Luke action figures. Please buy Luke action figures.
Wouldn't it be something if the ghost of Anakin whispers to Ahsoka to convince her to take on her role as the daughter? Let the future die. Kill it if you have to.